Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master here. I'm doing another video today, and might be releasing all these videos that I've been doing the last few weeks. I don't know. Depends on how I feel about that today, but I'll definitely release these two videos that I did today so far, including this one that I'm about to do. So I just watched Michael Nolan, who I like his channel, by the way, but him whining about Roger Waters being political at his shows and like this just this whole idea that musicians can't be political. Now there's a spectrum. So I find it pretty abhorrent that people will prop up their favorite political views in an artist and then criticize the other side for saying being loud about it. It's pretty stupid. Now, I personally agree with most of what Roger Waters is saying nowadays. He's very anti-war. He's talking about the people that are really in charge, causing what's happening right now in Europe specifically. He's very controversial on other subjects like Israel. I understand that, why people would get the wrong idea by that. Now, like if his live show used a big caricature of, a Semitic person or something, then I would be like, oh my God, he is an anti-Semite. But like talking about Palestinians and Israel is not anti-Semitic. So just get that out of the way. Now there's this notion. I understand. I like how Roger Waters is causing a ruckus. It's probably the best thing to happen right now one of the best things to happen right now in the music world. Now, there's been a lot of weird articles about Roger Waters lately, like, oh, he doesn't like AC/DC or Van Halen or whatever. It's like, he's 79 years old for one, and I mean, he likes Hendrix, he likes The Who, I'm sure, I know that for a fact. So, he likes jazz. I mean, it's like I don't like a lot of newer bands that came out because I'm just of this generation that I got into these certain bands. I try to check out newer bands that are kind of the continuation of more stuff, but than probably he does. But he's like, oh, I just rather listen to Neil Young. Well, who cares? Who cares? He's 79 years old. Who gives a shit if he doesn't like Van Halen? So these articles about him not liking Van Halen or AC/DC because it was this Rogan appearance, he said that, or he doesn't care about him or whatever. It's like, who gives a shit? Why would that be a headline? I think because these people are like blue checks, right? They're blue checks. They're like, Roger Waters is against the war in Ukraine. But he also hates AC/DC. I'm going to talk about the AC/DC thing. It's like, who gives a crap about that? So I think it's really stupid. And this rhetoric about, this pile onto Roger Waters all of a sudden, like, yeah, Roger Waters is kind of a dick. I mean, there's no denying it, I remember back in the day, I did the videos or blog posts about like Jeff Tate reminding me a lot of Roger Waters with his ego about, there's a lot of parallels with Mindcrime and The Wall and like what happened between the former bandmates of Queensryche and what happened with Pink Floyd. It was actually there's so many parallels. It's like kind of bizarre. Like there's so many parallels. I guess Chris DeGarmo would be Sid Barrett. No, not really, but it's a very interesting premise about that. But yeah, this whole pile onto Roger Waters is only because you don't have a good argument against what he's saying. If you actually have a good argument against what he's saying, it's the same, as liberals when they complain about Ted Nugent, being, saying what he says. I mean, actually, they don't do that as much. I think liberals are prone to like, well, it's just as stupid as them dismissing his music because of his opinions as the right wingers. Like, why does it have to be political? You're just as much of an NPC as a liberal by, having that position, because music has been political for probably hundreds of years. I'm sure there's like some old Mozart like piece that was titled something to make fun of the king or some shit. I don't know. I haven't done enough research on that whole thing, but I'm sure, there's been political or allegorical or socially relevant lyrics. And I'm not like pro. I like allegory more than social relevant, like more specific stuff. Like a lot of things that are dated now, like Dead Kennedy's lyrics are like, oh, well, Reagan's not in power, so what the hell is this lyric about? But some of them are just satire and funny too, of course, and they still are relevant today, especially government flu for various reasons. So, yeah, we're talking about Dead Kennedys, of course. So yeah, this whole notion that Roger Waters is like some problematic guy or annoying because he talks about politics, I'm triggered. Like, he was going against Trump, right? And a lot of people were triggered by that and were like, I don't go to a show to like hear Harold preaching by a musician. It's like, well, all right, so throw away your Animals album, where he actually does mention specific people like Woodhouse, or, oh, we didn't talk about it that much. Maybe not on the same scale. No, maybe not. But, if you read your fucking lyric sheet, if you weren't just doing the fifth Bond hit and you actually picked, opened up the fucking vinyl and read your lyric sheet, you would know that the guy was talking about some politics in the fucking lyrics, asshole. That's what makes me really mad about that whole stance. It's like, as an adult, like some of the Napalm Death lyrics now, I don't agree with them as much, right? Because I'm a little bit more, in a certain center range, I guess, politically in some ways. Like, some of the lyrics are just like a little cringe, like, especially the later ones, because they do go a little bit more towards like the NPC Democrat thing a little bit. Barney Greenway's lyrics or whatever, or Shane Embry. But, overall, it's just like, I think they're so killer, I don't really care. They're such a great band, And I still like a lot of their lyrics too, but some of them get a little bit too preachy. But I'm not going to sit here and say, Napalm Death, why do they talk about politics? I can't listen to it anymore. Because all of a sudden I discovered it was about politics. It's so stupid. And then this whole thing about Roger Waters. It's just like, well, to me, Roger Waters is a hypocrite because he lives in the fucking Hamptons. Okay, fine. Yeah, you can call him a hypocrite. Now, but he has done lots of work for various organizations and various people, and he's done a lot of stuff. More, probably, and it's not like in this, okay, dare I say, globalist way like Bono has, like, oh, I'm going to hang out with George Bush. Like on Rogan, he criticized Bono for hanging out with George Bush. He's actually less of a hypocrite than Bruce Springsteen or Bono or some of these guys. Like this Nolan video is talking about, like, I'm sick of these musicians talking about politics. Okay. If you're sick of musicians talking about politics, and just let's just return to rockabilly and like early rock and roll, because that was less political, right? Let's just return to that. Just destroy the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and everything. If you don't want to talk about politics, fine. You have it your way. But you're the ones that are listening to this music. You're the ones that are buying these tickets and buying these albums. So who the fuck are you to say? The entire thing was political, okay? Up until a certain point, it was political. I mean, the whole 60s were predicated on turn on, tune in, and drop out. It's a very political, socio-political act to do so, because it was about getting, avoiding the draft, doing acid, and, having sex with a lot of hippie chicks. I don't know. I'm just saying, it was if I would have lived back then. Anyways, Charles Manson. No, anyways, instead of Jeffrey Dahmer, next Jeffrey Dahmer, I'd be the next Charles Manson. But anyways, in reference to a previous video. So, yeah, these people are so, it's just like they're very naive and just like, I don't really get it. I mean, I understand the scale, okay, the scale of what Roger Waters talks about politically. And a lot of people are probably complaining now because he's going after Biden too. It's like, oh, well, I loved when he was talking about Trump. but no, he's after Biden, and like I had to cry because I love that man eating the ice cream and bombing people, you know, or sending the Ukraine all these weapons. It's so great. We have to have nuclear war, man. That's so great. You know, Putin is so evil and Trump is so evil. It's like these people are just, oh man, they're just relentlessly cringe in such a way. And this Nolan guy, I like his videos. It's like he talks about all these musicians and stuff, but he's bashing Roger Waters for talking about politics at his shows, like it's as if it's something new. I mean, Dark Side of the Moon had a couple of songs, you know, that were kind of, you know, they were talking about just existential kind of things, and you know, he started to talk more and more and more about it in, you know, in some of his lyrics, and you know, eventually, like Animals is a completely allegorical but very political album too. You know, you could kind of go both ways with it. So the people that are ignorant to that just discovered it because they were just so like, I just don't, you know, they discovered it because it just like, they were, these people are probably casual fans, half these people. Like, oh yeah, I just zone out to Pink Floyd. I don't listen to the lyrics. Like, that's all, I mean, that's what Roger Waters is about, is lyrics and concepts and ideas. But no, you can't talk about politics. And I'm going to go the same way for Ted Nugent. It's like Ted Nugent can talk whatever the fuck he wants. I don't, you know, I don't agree with him, but he can talk about whatever the fuck he wants, you know, and people are so triggered by it, they won't listen to like the old schools. They try to like downplay the 70s Ted Nugent. You know how many people that influenced some of that 70s Nugent stuff? You talk to anybody that's above the age of 50, it was a musician, they're like, yeah, I love that album. Yeah, I played guitar to that. Any like the classic bands from the last 30 years, like a lot of them, like, I bet even Pearl Jam. I love the first for those Ted Nugent albums. You know, you talk to any of those people, I'm sure they love Ted Nugent, and it's like, oh well. And I've seen like people, these like commentators, like say, oh, he's untalented. It's like, or he has nothing. He's irrelevant to anybody. Had one hit, Cat Scratch Fever. It's like, do you actually know? Your naivete about Ted Nugent is glaringly obvious. First of all, now I'm not a fan of his opinions. You know, I'm not a big fan of hunting or whatever. You know, I don't mind it. I'm just saying, like, I'm not into his like gun stuff or whatever. I mean, I think with globalism, you probably need some guns, but you know, with how it's going. But like, you know, or after the last 2.5 years too. But with what the governments have been able to get away with, free association and stuff being destroyed, or freedom of speech and freedom to associate with people. Not that there wasn't a threat. I'm not saying that, but you know, the rules, the dictates, they're trying to, the measures I'm talking about. But yeah, like just this whole notion that Ted Nugent should shut up and play. I mean, they're almost like the shut up and play, like, and it's more of a conservative thing. It was up until a certain point. It was more of a conservative thing. Shut up and play. Shut up and sing. Me, I'm sick of Hollywood. You know, it's like there are certain cringe opinions from Hollywood. If they're more establishment, they're definitely more cringe, right? But Roger Waters has the added bonus, added benefit of being against the establishment. Even if he lives in the fucking Hamptons and plays arenas a lot of the time. I'm going to say that at least he's anti-establishment. At least he's going after Biden. Let's give him some credit for going after both fuckers, you know? Like, and his opinions on Ukraine, you know, they're complicated, you know? And there's a couple of things that he said, like in the now infamous CNN interview that he did a couple of months ago, that I'm like, well, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But, you know, the other point, his overall premise, though, is he wants peace. Noam Chomsky, these other people that are attacking Biden for exacerbating this war that they didn't, that, you know, certain people, the Ukrainian establishment does not want peace, does not want to make deals with Putin, does not want to, you know, they don't want any compromise. Neither side wants compromise. So for Roger Waters to point that out and to say we need to get to the table, is that so problematic to your fucking feeble NPC neolib brain. I guess it is to some people. You know, it's like, oh, he likes Putin. He's a Putin fan. Oh, like just 3 or 4 years ago, he's had huge images of Trump like attacking him on stage. Sharad, you are pigs, or was it pigs on animals, which is my favorite Roger. See, I think Pink Floyd having like 4 eras. There was the Syd Barrett, maybe the first 2 albums ostensibly, because they were kind of getting over Sid. They were kind of still very influenced by Syd Barrett on the second album. There was the experimental full band period where they all wrote songs and stuff, and that's what those box sets that came out a couple years ago, which I own most of them. That's what that was about. And then there's like the Roger Waters led period, which is like Dark Side through Wall, and then there's Dark Side through Final Cut, and then there was the David Gilmour period. So there's like 4 different periods of the band. But anyways, why was I saying that? So, but I mean, as far as like, you know, Roger Waters, he has his opinion. I mean, he's right. Roger Waters is right. I don't care what people say about maybe socialism or whatever he calls himself, which is more like I would dare say he's probably more of a Northern European Dem sock sort of type, which is not really that uncapitalist anyways. He's very capitalist. He doesn't really attack you notice he doesn't really say like, I hate capitalism, dictatorship of the proletariat. He attacks specific things too. Another benefit of his dialogue. He'll attack certain things, certain actions. Maybe his overall premise is socialist, but you know, it's like he'll attack foreign policy, American foreign policy. He'll attack economic conditions, certain things. Like there was this activist lawyer guy that went to prison or something. He was like, he helped him with his stuff. I forgot his name, but then all these people, you know, these different people. He attacks social media giants. He attacks people. He was on Rogan for fuck's sake, and you know, Neil Young didn't have the balls to go on Rogan. Fucking Roger Waters did. It was a very good episode. It was like 3 hours. You know, people. It just really makes me mad. You know that these old, and this Michael Nolan guy looks like an old hippie guy, right? And it just really makes me mad. Where did you lose the plot? When did you lose the plot, and where and how? Like I even got attacked by someone that she was an old hippie for daring to say that Putin had like certain gripes that he was using as an excuse to go to war that we should probably at least like acknowledge to try to make some peace there instead of going towards nuclear fucking war. But yeah, I'm so mad about this. I'm so mad about this Roger Waters like pile on that's happening. I mean, these articles come out, you know, it's like with Eric Clapton, like with the whole, you know, Shrivenka Maxine controversy. I'll use code words on YouTube. I'm still doing it, even though I've noticed that people are a little bit looser about it nowadays. But you know, he did the song with Van Morrison and anti-lockdown stuff, and like, oh, well, all of a sudden we're gonna dig up all this other dirt on Eric Clapton, but not mention it's because we're attacking him for that. Because, you know, it's like, yeah, he sued someone on YouTube or some shit. It's like, so did Prince. Prince sued a bunch of people. You're not doing articles about that. You're not doing articles about, you know, all that shit. But we gotta focus that target on Eric Clapton, or who actually did work with Roger Waters back in the day too. It's kind of funny to mention that as this kind of analog replacement for David Gilmour in a way. Even though I do prefer David Gilmour's guitar, to be honest. A lot of more varied kind of scales and stuff that he used. I just love like echoes and, you know, like even on Animals, a lot of the licks that he did, incredible. But anyways, and The Wall as well. But yeah, I don't think this pile onto Roger Waters is very effective for that matter. I mean, oh, I'm going to complain like this video that I'm talking about. It's like, we're going to complain. Oh, John Lennon, he was like trying to extol John Lennon as not like a political guy as much as Roger Waters is. It's like, that's bullshit, first of all. Bigger hypocrite in some ways too, by the way. And John Lennon was great, you know, but he abused his first wife. He was an asshole to his son. He was a scumbag. But we gotta treat people in history as the whole person, not just one or two little things that they did wrong or one or two things that they did right. That's what we got to do. But Roger Waters, you know, he's an asshole. You know, I think he has severe psychological issues, and I think he's gotten better. That's what I think, because you notice that or at least for a while, he was a little more conciliatory towards David Gilmour, and not as much anymore. But David Gilmour is no saint either with regards to that. Nick Mason's the only guy of the surviving members that really gets out, you know, without that baggage. He's like lukewarm water. He even looks a little like fucking Derek Smalls too, doesn't he? Even though he plays drums instead of bass. But like, it's like lukewarm water in the it's a Spinal Tap reference for people that don't know. So yeah, I don't like this pile onto Roger Waters, and it's like, leave him the fuck alone. He's 79 years old. He's still playing. If you're gonna play stages in, you know, this huge show he puts together, he's 79 years old. He's putting these huge shows together. He's playing on stage, you know, for 2 hours a night. You know, I mean, he doesn't run around like Bruce Dickinson or something, but it's like, it's a big deal. The guy's like deep into elderly age, silent generation. He's not even a fucking boomer. He's not even a boomer. That's how old he is. He's playing all these songs from Pink Floyd. Still, I think he's going on tour next year, as far as I know. I don't even know. He has so much energy to him. Maybe watch him on these interviews, like, he looks younger than he did in like the 70s and shit. Like, he looks back, like his face is like evened out. He doesn't look as like weird. It's really weird stuff, but like, you know, he's aged with grace, you know. And it's like, people, I just don't like this attacking people for politics, like in music. If you do music, you know, there's a way to do it, and you can attack Rage Against the Machine for being hypocritical. So we're full-on communist, okay? You can attack them, fine. And Tom Morello and stuff. You can attack hypocrites. I agree with that. But saying, I am so triggered by him talking about, he had a big image of Joe Biden on his stage. I love Joe Biden. or Trump for that matter. Oh, why did he attack Trump? If you ask Roger Waters, you know, he'd probably just say, you know, the truth about all this stuff. I mean, it's just so stupid, you know. It's just like this rhetoric that we've gotten to. And politics are pretty divisive, yeah. It's like, it's gotten so stupid. And this is how dumb it's got, this whole concept of music and politics being, you know, intertwined. James Hetfield is in full fucking denial, okay, about his own songs, because Metallica's not about politics. Oh, Justice for All wasn't about politics. Ride the Lightning wasn't like a sort of anti-death penalty screed, or Disposable Heroes wasn't about war and like attacking like the idea of going to war and having this. I mean, obviously it was about tied football metaphors too in there, but no, it's not about that. It's all, oh, we were never a political band. Yeah, right. Fucking second 3 albums, I should say. Maybe not Kill 'Em All. I mean, I guess you could argue that like I don't know. I'm trying to think of what Four Horsemen is. I don't know. There's no political lyrics on the first album, but definitely on the 3 albums that you know that followed it. And Metallica, those are Metallica's best albums in my opinion. Don't Tread on Me is not political. I mean, that's almost from the other end. What happened. And I know Dave Mustaine would never deny writing political lyrics. Thank God he's not like that. Because God, he's not in that kind of denial. James Hetfield is more like a. Why did I start talking about James Hetfield? He's more like trying to keep on the down low about what he's really about nowadays, because he was on this really twisted anti-porn Mormon documentary. He narrated it. I'm like, the dude must be more Christo than fucking Dave Mustaine at this point. And I really truly believe that. Dave Mustaine puts his foot in his mouth all the time. Don't get me wrong. But James Hetfield I think he's more extreme than Dave Mustaine is with the religious shit. It's just my opinion. He's more covert about it. But like, yeah, to be in denial because it's not cool to like certain audiences don't like your politics, or such a fucking pussy. Just fucking come out and say you went more right wing. Like Dave Mustaine might even say that. Well, actually, he doesn't. He's all in denial. Like, I was always about the same thing. Yeah. I was always about the same thing. Even though I hosted MTV, like going to the Democratic National Convention in 1992. You're fucking full of shit. You were a fucking bleeding heart fucking liberal. Foreclosure for a Dream was about Bush, H.W. Bush, you know? It's like you were a bleeding heart fucking liberal libtard, basically, back in the day, you know? Military intelligence, two words combined that don't make sense. I mean, that might be Nick Menza, too, but yeah, I mean, you were totally against all, I mean, you were totally like that. He still was sort of anti-establishment, at least, but, you know, to deny that he was like a liberal and stuff is so stupid, because he was definitely one for a while, if you read the fucking lyric. Countdown to Extinction. You know, what are you, a member of PETA now? You know what I mean? It's just like, these people are, I just hate the denial. You know, but there's one person who I was just talking about that's been consistent the entire time, and he's been the same the entire time, no matter what people want to revise with history themselves, fans and people that were just too fucking stupid to follow along. And you know, I'm gonna say this right now before I say what I'm gonna say, is that I don't care if what political position a band has, as long as it's not like super offensively like racist or whatever. You know, I'm not really into like a lot of those bands. I mean, if they have metaphors in the lyrics, like some albums do, like some of these really controversial black metal bands and stuff, it's a little bit different. But like if they're really like just saying the shit, usually the music sucks anyways. First of all, you know, like a lot of Rock Against Communism stuff and all that. It's like, it sounds like some bad oi punk, you know, like a bad garage band trying to do oi punk really shittily and badly with some really shitty racist lyrics. So like extreme, and at the same time, like Neckbeard Death Camp leaves me dry too, you know, and stuff like that. I mean, but you know, the classic Napalm Death's far left fucking, you know, borderline communist kind of stuff, and I love it, you know, or anarchist or whatever, you know. So like, and then, you know, you have on the other side, you know, Iced Earth. I mean, I don't like that one album that was really blatantly political. The Sons of Liberty is kind of annoying, but you know, the rest of the stuff's great, you know. I mean, I'm trying to think of a more right-wing band. Well, MOD, you know, SOD, what sort of, because Billy Milano is pretty righty. You know, some of that stuff is pretty damn good. Cro-Mags, you know, was pretty right-wing too. You know, they have some great music. I mean, if it's good, if music outshines it and the lyrics are like, dare I say it, like vague, maybe obtuse or vague or something like that enough, then it works. But yeah, I mean, maybe I'm contradicting but if it's just good, if it's good music, I mean, Lenny Riefenstahl, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Riefenstahl, you know, was a great director, but she was a Nazi. But you watch her movies, they're beautiful, you know. You know, there's a lot of stuff that's right. There's not as much right-wing stuff, so it's hard for me to think about that. Like, I don't know about, like, the more stuff is more like libertarian left in metal and rock for the most part. So I can't really think of a lot of examples on the right other than like neo-Nazi bands that are like that right-wing. And usually a lot of those bands suck anyways as bands. So, I mean, Burzum is great music. I mean, maybe you can read into some of those lyrics and say, oh, well, it's kind of about this race, well, it's racial but it's like a metaphor. Use Tolkien as that or whatever, you know, the Tolkien reference to bankers or some shit or whatever, immigrants or whatever, you know. So who knows? But my point is that there's been one person who's been consistent politically and been the same person is Roger Waters. He's been the same. He's written the same types of lyrics over the years. There's been no change other than maybe having specific politicians on the fucking screen. Maybe that's one thing that has changed. But the overall package is the same. The overall package has been the same for 40, 45 years. Like, it's just, the ignorance of these people, it's so galling. And yeah, like this video that talks about Bruce Springsteen and Bono. Yeah, those guys are more cringe because Bono is like a complete hypocrite and a complete sellout. Bruce Springsteen, the same. I mean, Roger Waters is charging a fuckload of money for some of the tickets. Not as much as I thought, actually. I looked at it. Some of them like $86 or something. But, Bruce Springsteen's charging $5,000. Or Bono, hanging out with Bill Gates and fucking like George W. Bush and all this stuff. It's like, it's just completely anti-ethical to actual activism, liberalism, not liberalism, but leftism or whatever. Like people that call like WEF communist, it's like, no, they're not communists. Maybe that some of their tactics are similar or whatever. Or you tie this thing to this. It's corporatist, But yeah, so Roger Waters deserves defense from these just lame boomer types that are attacking him, or anybody that's attacking him, because it's like, oh, well, he triggered these people because they're so gun-ho for Zelensky, or so gun-ho. Like, I just could imagine if he did pull a lot of stuff on the COVID ID stuff, he would be canceled immediately. But now they're doing this slow trudge of canceling him because I think a lot more leftists or people on the left, the dissident left, like Noam Chomsky, have the right take on this. Like, because traditionally the left in America, at least, has been pretty anti-war. Liberalism has been. So it's like, well, yeah, it's kind of more congruent with what they did before. Obviously, with the other stuff, the right wing had their day in the sun with that stuff. But that's pretty much what happened with all this. So Roger Waters is right. Roger Waters is correct in his views. I agree with him. But at the same time, I don't care if the quality of the music is good, if the quality of the presentation, and if it has a very deep meaning. I'm not going to mention an album I really like that is very controversial. Maybe I will one day. By a certain band is, they would have me killed. There are albums that I like by some of these bands. They would probably have me killed. Probably Varg Vikernes might have me killed because I have Ashkenazi ancestry and stuff, actually from Ukraine, ironically enough. And I have some ancestry that are very questionable as far as my racial characteristics. I've been trying to get a job at a bank for a while. I'm just kidding. No, I'm joking. But anyways, it's like one of those things. It's if a band plays music compelling enough and emotional, like there is a band I like. Okay, I like some George Birdie's music, like his new band called Uberfolk or whatever. All right, I'll just admit it. Okay, he's like, very problematic person who he was a neo-Nazi and then he quit, and he had this band with was multi-ethnic, and then he went back to the Nazi sort of loosely alt-right Nazi thing, like sort of in between. And his music and his voice, I really like it. A lot of his stuff, but he'd want me killed. And I laugh at some of the lyrics, like, oh, well, it's like just like his voice and stuff, saying so dramatically about this war, this, and he'd want me killed because I'm not one of those people, and I support a lot of things that he probably wouldn't. But it's one of those things. I like some of his music. I'll admit it. I like some of Burzum's music. I like some of these other bands too. I'm just admitting it. But they would want me killed. I'd be in the camp, if they had their way, like full on, had their way. And by that time, I don't know if they would really be into that, because when push comes to shove, people are not going to shove you in the oven necessarily. But more than one meeting with that. But it's like, if political stuff, it's just anything since the 60s has been ostensibly any music since rock music, metal music, anything derived from rock or rock related has had a proportion of it political or socio-political or socially relevant in lyric and content. So for people to bash someone for having that flex in their music, it's just so disingenuous. It's stupid and moronic and ignorant and naive about everything. Even Iron Maiden, very vague political lyrics, but 2 Minutes to Midnight, about nuclear war, about warmongering, the Thatcher Reagan war machine. Dare I trigger people that like Iron Maiden that love Reagan? But yeah, it was about that. Now let me ask you a question: if you like Thatcher, you like Reagan, are you going to stop listening to Iron Maiden because of that? If you like, what's another song by them? If you're like a homophobe, are you going to stop listening to Fear is the Key? It's about AIDS. Are you going to stop listening to a lot of these songs? I mean, they don't have that many political songs, but they did have some political songs. Judas Priest has no political songs, as far as I know, except for maybe United was like kind of a gay liberation kind of thing involved, like he was inspired by that or whatever with the song United or some of these songs. Obviously, there's a lot of gay lyrics in Judas Priest, which are to me are really funny because I just like the innuendos and trying to read the lyrics and think like, what does he mean by that? Oh wow, these like the homophobic metalheads in the '80s that would listen to Judas Priest. It's just the ultimate like irony, like Rob Halford got away with all these lyrics, and the guy would be like probably beat him up for doing some of the stuff in the song. If you actually read the lyrics and like can read the innuendos and the stuff he's talking about, like holy shit, Jawbreaker, oh my god. Anyways, that's about all.